but
I like it too.
You can do a lot at home.
Okay, we will, yeah, we'll reach out to GBS and see what the next available plan for the employee, on the employee's favor would be, and what increase that would be for us, so. Some other items, expenses that were included in the tentative budget. Remember we put budgeted transfers for future capital projects, for future capital equipment, and future capital road projects. So that moves the needle quite a bit on the expenditure side, but it saves for our future on our capital projects, roads, and equipment for the future. And then there is a down payment on a new fire truck. That was $330,000. The big road project this year is the chip seal that we talked about a couple meetings ago. And then we continue to work on these right-of-way construction easements in 1000 North from 2300 West to 2660, so that hopefully at the end of this, at the January of next year, 2024, we'll be able to go out to bid and start construction in that 24 construction season.
They started on them easement deals yet, Paul?
no, we're still working on
Yeah.
the agent and
I,
getting them defined totally.
yeah, so we had a kickoff meeting between, just on the staff level, Paul, myself, the mayor, the acquisition agent, the city engineer, and we were able to make some good progress as far as finalizing those legal descriptions. Chris is in the midst of doing that. The acquisition agent is going on vacation here for about 3 weeks, and so what it's looking like is we'll really start reaching out to property owners when she gets back. Chris will have those easements finalized by that point, which will be the 1st of June. So probably the 5th of June is when you'll start to hear
6 months,
some.
plenty of time, Paul?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Now, those are,
Because we'll just want, like you said, we want
once
it
all
in
the
the bid.
property's totally defined, it's either, it's go in and explain to them what they're doing. They're not losing any property. We need that easement to be able to work on their property so we can make those transitions. And most people will be pretty good with it, especially because there is an offering to them. And plus, they benefit at the end.
I just didn't know if 6 months would be enough to get
Oh,
the
yeah.
bid. And, okay.
Yeah, it's not huge amounts. So, yeah.
And then the last one that's included, that's a big expense, is that wastewater treatment plant upgrade. And if you look on Fund 52 on your sheet, that's kind of where that one is included. So those are the expenses, and to be able to balance the budget, state law that we have to present a balanced budget. This is kind of how we had to with the revenues. Sales tax is what it is. We got a projection from Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns. They forwarded this projection, and we were pretty much spot on with what they projected Tremont would come in fiscal year 2024. At the 2.892, we budgeted 2.883. And the tentative budget was already out to the public, so I didn't change those numbers to match exactly, but it's pretty close. So we think we're right on track with our sales tax projection. Property tax, this is the one where we got direction from the council last time that, so our current fiscal year 23, the one we're in right now, we have revenues and property tax of 1.996 million. We estimate that there'll probably be about $80,000 in new growth. And property tax, you only receive what you received last year plus the new growth. And so that's a difference of, to be able to balance the budget, we'll need more revenues coming in. And those revenues is the 1.214. And so we budgeted in the tentative budget the 3.29 million. So that's with the property tax increase to receive that 1.2 million in additional revenue.
And what percent property tax rate?
That would be
increase is
about 58 to 60%. So I just wanted to make that clear that in the tentative, that's what's in there to be able to balance it. We can talk about these options that we could reduce that amount with. And I had Lindsay, she has that tool that Curtis had last time, that we could be able to adjust these amounts if we wanted to. If that's something the council wants to go over again, or, again, this is the tentative budget. We have time, we have 2 meetings to talk about budget. And then the third meeting would be when we have to really decide. So it's the end of June, June 20th. So we have between now and then to continue to make these numbers work. We don't have the certified tax rate, so we don't know exactly what the new growth is going to be. That will come in the first part of June. But based off of history, we think it's about the $80,000 in new growth.
The other thing that I would just add too, about that same time, the first part to middle of June, you'll need to declare if you're going to go through the truth and taxation process or not. If you do go through the truth and taxation, then we'll adopt essentially, again, a tentative budget pending the adoption of the final new tax rate. And we'll hold off on expending funds that are related to what you're increasing property tax for, just in case something changes in the end.
So, since I just didn't pay much attention in life till a year ago, when was the last tax increase the city put on? Wasn't it the fire department guys?
Correct.
And that was a what percent, just top of your head?
It was like 10.
Yeah, I think the council said we could go to 20%, and that's what went out there. And then it came in that they needed 10% to hire the fire chief on and get going with the full-time.
And that was in 2000,
20? I think it was the tax year of 20.
how about before that?
No record of us increasing.
No record of ever raising taxes?
Back as far as the 80s.
You guys been here a long time, how come you didn't raise taxes?
Yeah, and we did get some increases and bumps along the way with the RDA as taxable value came out for those, so that really helped the city during that period of time.
Yeah, bringing in a major big business and things like that
Yeah, we
really
had-
help. And
2 or 3 great businesses come. Multi-Mill, Autoleaf, Intertape Polymer, and West Liberty
West
Foods.
Liberty.
With a lot of taxable value.
And don't they get tax breaks for a while? Are they about over? Are we gonna gather any more from them?
No, so with those have all, so the most recent ones, have been Multi-Mill and West Liberty Foods, and we did create a project area, and it was a 10-year project area, I think in both cases, I want to say. And as part of that, as an incentive to get them to come, we did remit back a portion of their property tax. We also, for the West Liberty Foods specifically, a portion of it was captured for affordable housing, which is what we're using to implement our moderate income housing plan. So, but there was money returned to them to offset their investment.
Yeah, questions. So, you identified and have well identified, the 3 officers and 1 sergeant, 1 civilian. We're also getting 3 more full-time fire people with this, aren't we?
Yeah, that's currently, because we did a budget amendment, those are currently already, well, yeah, they're already appropriated. But it will roll into next year because it's an ongoing expense for the rest.
Right, so we're actually picking up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people, 9 full-time jobs
Yeah, if you count those as being next year, but we did approve them in this year's budget.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
But yeah,
when do we start giving notice to the community that we're thinking about raising their taxes?
we could do it as soon as, I mean, the legal, there's a process that we follow with is the truth in taxation. And I think that comes, the first notification they get is when the auditor sends out the estimated property tax increase. It'll give them notice, but, you know, we've been discussing it too through these meetings, and I'm not sure if the public's aware of it at this point or not. But then there'll be even a further, more direct newspaper notice that comes out, which is prescribed in state code as far as what we have to tell them. It's very specific, even the size. So,
Which, what we put in it, and that type of stuff's all
yeah,
spelled out to us?
it is.
Because somewhere we need to sell a point. Mark, you made a comment to me that you can almost take just the full-time people we're gonna hire, and it should translate right back into the 1.2 million.
Yeah.
That we need to be selling this thing. Otherwise, we're gonna be hung on a square out here, so.
Yeah. And like Sean said, we're gonna, I mean, we can pin it to that. We haven't done it dollar for dollar yet because we don't know the certified tax rate yet. But we can pin it to public safety, and we're going to, because if you go through truth and taxation and you end up not increasing the property tax, then we won't do those added services, whether it's new employees or whether it's whatever the new
That's
service
what I was
is.
gonna ask. If we go through it and if we just have the truth and taxation and people, what, they vote on it?
No.
We
He
do.
decides to.
Vote on it.
So you hear the public and you take their comments and then you decide after that.
Right.
So if you decide not to go through with a property tax increase, then we can't expend, then we don't have those funds to expend to hire new people or to
Yeah.
whatever the case may be.
So, yeah, so just to be clear, so we won't move forward with hiring those new positions that we've identified as part of the property tax increase
Until
until you approve it.
it's approved.
Yeah, we might advertise. I talked to the chief, so, you know, we could advertise and see if we see what kind of applications we get in, but not necessarily move forward with extending an offer. But we won't hire anyone or commit or obligate the city until we know that those property tax funds have been increased.
And we should know that by when?
August.
August.
Yeah, I think the hearing will be in.
Hearing's August
Before
15th.
August.
And then
If we're
you,
gonna, yeah.
or maybe you do a hearing a week before and then the meeting August 15th or right there in the middle of August.
So we're gonna go ahead and start asking this, go for truth and taxation, but we still have a final meeting before we finally vote whether or not we're actually gonna increase the taxes this much.
Yeah, you'll probably have, so the next meeting, you won't, I mean, we can talk about it more. I think you'll need to make a decision about going through the truth and taxation process the first portion of June. And, you know, that will give the auditor notice to put on the preliminary tax rates, you know, that Tremont City is, considering this increase and what that would look like. I believe that's part of what the actual estimated property tax would include that. And then again, you know, either the city or the clerk auditor will follow the statutory public notice requirements later as well. But, you know, we could get the word out if you don't think it's out there already that we're discussing or that you're discussing it and contemplating it.
See, my deal, and I guess, I'm still catching on, but when are we gonna be able to, like Paul, we're gonna spend how much on the sewer? 2 million?
Treatment plant,
Yeah, it's on here.
52.
The budget for the year is 6 million, but the project I think was like 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, 3.6. And Paul has that money in his budget.
yeah.
How can we run the rest of the city that the money's gonna be there? And not just play catch-up? We're not gonna raise taxes or nothing with
No.
the 4 million Paul's
No.
gonna spend, because the money's there. How come we can't do that with police and fire.
The general fund kind of runs on a as need, like a yearly basis. So you should only receive the money that you need for that year. It's not one to put away in the coffers for down the
okay.
road, or else people think that you're just taking all the, well, and it's true, you're taking all the property
It
tax.
would be
and taxes.
overtaxing at that point.
Yeah, just for, just for future. And if you have a huge fund balance, then that isn't, well, it's against state code, so.
See, in
With
those
the-
enterprise funds,
Yeah.
they're made up of, some of them's impact fees that's going into the treatment plant, which you don't have in the general fund generally. Plus some user fees. Depreciation goes into those funds where the city streets, we do not depreciate. I mean, they would like you to. I mean, this is a new rule that came out 20 years ago, but nobody could fund, you can't depreciate, you can't gather that much income without really taxing the citizens for it. And so that's why we opted a different method. We look at the street, we try to keep them at a certain service level. That's why we make improvements incrementally, because we just don't build the funds to be able to do that. If you look at the cost of what it costs to do a street. So it just kind of operates a totally different, those enterprise funds.
Yep.
Water, sewer,
Yeah.
Treatment plant,
treatment plant.
storm drain.
Mr. Mayor? I was just going to say, there are some cities that are starting to move, and the states have upheld the creation of roads as a utility. And so some cities are essentially charging a user rate or utility rate for roads and do it as a way to maintain it. So it was litigated, and the Supreme Court upheld that it's not a tax, that it can be, depending on how you structure it. And Pleasant Grove was the city that actually defended their utility road or utility transportation fee and did it successfully. And the way they structured it was deemed to be a utility. So essentially, in enterprise funds like the water and sewer, where we charge user rates and that's not going to be used for new roads. That was one of the issues. It was for existing roads, the roads that the users are using and getting utility out of right now. I'm trying to remember. I think in Pleasant Grove's case, they looked at how much money they needed to maintain the roads. I think it was like $2 million. They had to do essentially a proportionate share analysis for, the type of land use and what it came in as. I think residents in Pleasant Grove's case was charged $8.
That's what I remember too. So they had 3 tiers. They had a resident tier, so every resident was charged $8 a month. And then they had a business, like a non-trucking business, and that was $100 or so, I can't remember. And then a trucking business was like $700 or $800. Like, it was pretty high, but those were the 3 tiers that they decided to structure it off of. And then all of the money has to go into a special revenue fund and can only stay in there to pay for the maintenance of current existing roads. They couldn't add new roads with it. They just had to maintain what they already had with it.
Which would be a nice complement, because we have a future transportation, I think it's called, it's Fund 42, future transportation, where we try to put capital, transfers from the general fund for future capacity building road projects or new roads.
I just have one detailed question on parks, number 26 on the budget. 2024 budget, you went, last time we were presented this, it went from, where'd it go? 57,000 up to 636. Is that part of the holding pond that we purchased, or what's that?
No, that was what we talked about in the RDA meeting. Because we were going to expend those funds out of the RDA funds,
Okay,
but we were going to transfer that money, the bond, or sorry, not the bond, the grant money, and then the RDA transfer up there.
so that's $500,000. Okay.
And not to beat an old thing, but I still haven't got a good answer on, when we went through this huge tax, our homes went up in value quite dramatically. And so our property taxes went up dramatically because of that, but our city taxes stayed the same. So where did all that money go? And I still don't know the answer to that, you know?
Yeah.
We should have, yeah, you would think that that should have come, a proportional amount should have come back to the city versus some entity. And what entity, did the district end up with all that extra cash?
No, so in theory, and I'm just telling you because I don't know specifically who didn't pay, but there was a property tax shift. So some property owners paid less, which we think is commercial. But I know anecdotally, everyone talks to their neighbor, to people they know, and everyone's saying, well, I paid more. So, the only one who could probably really unwrap that for this is one of the county representatives, that
There's
talked
an
about
audit
the tax
process
shift.
in place that makes sure that that all stays legit.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at our budget and say, the certified tax rate, calculates what we'll get, and it's essentially what we receive minus the new growth.
So when the taxes, I've been through this.
Yeah.
Okay, so what they do is when they decide how much to tax, all the entities come in with their budget saying, this is what we need to function. Then the county takes a look at it and they have to redistribute it back to wherever they're getting taxes from, homes and commercial buildings. So the only thing that changes is their valuation on the buildings. And that's where some people get a huge increase and some people don't. And I've talked about this before where the guy that made the decision for it decided that he would just increase homes above 450,000, which means that everybody that had a home less than 450, their taxes decreased. Everybody else's went up substantially. But the same amount of money was collected, not anymore. And see, that's where we get in trouble with everybody, because you think that if they increase taxes, we should have got our proportionate share. No, we got what we asked for, and so does the county, so does the mosquito abatement, all of them. They don't get any extra. They
Okay,
get
so-
what their budget request is.
Here's a fair question. If lower income homes had their taxes decreased, I'm wondering what this tax increase will do to them to will it bring them back closer to what they were paying before or dramatically more? Or
You vote the auditor, not the auditor, the treasurer.
Assessor, maybe?
What's that?
The assessor?
The assessor, you vote the assessor in, and for some reason, we're screwed up because this one person can decide how it's gonna be taxed. And he should have never did, in my mind, to be fair, everybody should have had the normal, increase above all of their properties, to be fair, not just 450 and above. And so nobody can answer that question except the assessor on how he's going to decide to do it this time. We simply ask him how much money from Tremont and City, and he decides how it's gonna be assessed.
How he's gonna gather that.
That's the way it works.
'cause I get concerned about the fixed income house and then throwing this kind of rate on them. But if they had their property taxes reduced, you see where I'm headed with this? Will this bring them back into the line to where they were before? And I'd feel a lot better about that than 50-60% on top of what they were paying
So can we
before.
invite him here and ask him that simple question, how you're going to assess the taxes that we're asking for?
We can always invite him. I know he's going to say it's based on the market, and he'll do the market analysis. I mean,
He won't answer us.
Okay,
so
all right.
that's a good explanation.
He did.
So,
So that the
Black
fixed
hole.
income people wouldn't have an increase in taxes, and they actually end up getting dropped in the amount they had to pay. You never hear about people that are paying less taxes. They never say anything.
One of the things that, I don't know if I could use the word excites me, but certainly helps me to justify this tentative budget is the fact that this is about safety. A good share of it has everything to do with our city becoming more safe. And to me, that is huge.
Yeah, big portion is the police
I
department
mean,
in general.
the roads, I think that you can tie safety into almost everything because we want our city to be safer and more secure. And that's what I think primarily what we're doing. Is we've recognized that we've been doing things for a long time and we've had fantastic employees, but they've been doing lots and lots. And so when we go to replace them, we can't, right? Because you can't replace somebody that's been working far and above what a normal person would be expected to work.
Yeah.
What's the election $20,000 increase?
County to run our election.
Now,
So last year we didn't pay anything for elections, and this year we have an election to
Every other.
replace.
Is that the,
And we budget the full 20. That's if we have a primary and a general election. If you don't have to have a primary, then it's only going to be the 10 grand, but we don't know that
for
yet.
every 2 years?
Yes,
That's in-
every other
okay.
year we have an election.
and Mark, could you address just in a short form,
Yeah.
a little bit about our senior center?
Yes.
I can see where that's here, but you and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago about, have we gone to these different cities asking for their support?
Yeah.
How have we, is that,
So, incrementally, we've been receiving more money from other entities. So it wasn't very long ago, maybe 5 years ago, the county was paying us $35,000 a year, and that's all we would get from other entities. Now the county's up to about $70,000, and they paid their full share. We just got a check from Howell. They paid a portion of their share. Fielding's been paying their share. Bear River City's been paying their share. And then the county used some of the ARPA funds, and they split up $110,000. They gave us $45,000 one time, but to help offset some costs for this year. So it's on the right trajectory. We're still trying to work with our neighbors.
I know an easy
those
answer.
meetings that we went to and attended are paying off?
Yeah.
He said he was going.
You're such a good talker. I think it's the two people
No.
who fell in love out there story, Connie. If you haven't heard it, come to the next one. Connie's really good at that. Well,
Really,
you guys laughed that day, just so you know, when we said, I'd like to go to the cities, and you guys said, well, go ahead, and you know what, it's paying off. Connie's doing the most work though, but
I've enjoyed
We're
them,
gathering
actually. I've
because-
enjoyed them.
oh, they're doing a great job.
I did not
Yeah.
wanna
Thank
They
you.
were-
have to tell somebody they couldn't eat or go play there.
No, I think I appreciate I
But I'd like
appreciate
the
all you've done.
report because
Yeah.
that way when we see these leaders in these other communities and we see them, we need to express,
Right.
thank you for that,
Yep.
They're paying.
if they're paying. Which I think that our largest contributor, I think that'll come.
Okay.
I do too. They
I
gotta
really
put it
believe
in
that
their
is right.
budget.
Non-contributor, is that what you're saying?
The largest non-contributor.
I was gonna say, out of
I'm
all the cities we
hoping-
visited, how many are paying now?
Well, he just
Yeah,
said,
Fielding,
Fielding,
Howell paid this last
Howell.
time, Bear River City,
River City.
Plymouth, and the county.
Cool.
And Elwood, didn't you say Elwood too?
Oh, it's not yet.
Elwood,
Elwood's
not,
not
but,
yet.
so we have some work.
They may budget.
I heard. So,
So my biggest heartache over this whole thing is we're having to have the citizens finance our growth with property taxes, and that's going to be, I agree with you, it's safety and we need it, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. So we have to sell that. But I know that we're going to get hit hard with, because the city's grown so much, now we're having to pay for it out of our own pockets.
The thing that they all said they didn't wanna do.
Yeah. So we've got to come up with some good argument for that.
Well, I would say we were behind for public safety.
I was gonna say, we haven't been increasing when, as the city
We've been behind the
has
whole
grown
time.
for years.
Yeah.
and Now we're paying the price.
And
You know, and the other thing, maybe as part of that debate is, we don't have bigger businesses in here, and fortunately for that, that's what helped you guys us to not have to pay in the past. But normal citizens have to pay a little bit more each year, and so, yeah, I think we need to come up with some really good points
Yeah.
that we need to be able to present when these come out.
You're right, Brad. I think that we are gonna have we need to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. We live here too. And
My
it's
taxes
the
are gonna
right-
go up, everybody's
and it's the
taxes are
right
gonna
thing
go up
to do.
if we,
And we feel good about it if that's what we decide.
Oh, and I have no problem paying for police officers and firemen.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
Well, you know, I don't have a problem paying the 7.2 for our wonderful employees that work for the,
Oh,
for the
same
city. I
thing
don't
here.
have,
Yeah.
I don't have any issues with that. I don't have problems with any of the items on there.
I wish we could have had in writing what the fire department used to cost and what it does now. Cause that was a gift for a long time to the city,
You're right.
you know? If we'd went full-time 10 years ago, it would have been a whole different ballgame, but we're only 2 years into a full-time department. Before that, it was no benefits, no nothing.
But we have been blessed in this city for
Right.
so long
And we-
in so many ways.
Yep.
Can we put some type of deal to go on the local leader and also on Facebook that explains, you know, the amount of people we're hiring? From the police department, you know, comparing us to other cities on how many police we have per citizens.
Yeah, that numbers that you
Those
had,
numbers are
Justin.
really, really important that we get them out. We're going from, you know, volunteer fire department to, you know, full-time people and that type of stuff. It needs to be explained that this isn't just coming out of the blue.
And I think too that, you know, as we lock arms with our police department, we're basically wanting them to do so much, and we get notified often on all the good that's going on to keep our community safe. Well, there's a cost to insurance, period.
I wish there was a way, chief, that you could, them few emails that you send us and all that, I don't know if that can go out to, used to be in the paper. You know, the police report. I'm sure that's against the law anymore. but-
No, I think it's a great idea. I'm happy to take that on for you too, Lyle, as far as communicating with the media, where we're at, where we're going, get the word out. I think that's a great idea. But Wes, that's a double-edged sword. Sometimes these busts are not favored by citizens, especially if it's like marijuana or controversial things. People love their marijuana and they get mad when we take that away. So I do think with certain types of warrants we're doing, we should absolutely be sharing that. But that's a balancing game because we don't want to release too much information.
Right.
Where we're kind of conflicting their constitutional rights to a fair trial.
But I can guarantee you the public don't know 10% unless you pull them over for speed and then you're that thing, you know?
Very true.
But they don't know all the good that you're doing, especially the older people that don't do Facebook. There's not much in the paper anymore, you know? They have no clue what's going on in the, I mean, I keep my parents, you know, hey, there was a good drug bust, and they're going, yahoo, but they'd have never known because they're not social media people and,
Yeah,
Things
that's a
like
good
that.
idea. I'll take that on. I'll see what we can do with the strike force where I can release just enough to not complicate it. And then if it spirals over, I'll take it.
I think if you get the negative comments, that's probably because it was their brother or something, so what do, you know? The rest of the community might wanna know, but you don't have to mention names, nothing like that, but I think the community needs to know how far we are behind on per capita, or, you know, officer per citizen, and
Can you put those numbers together for us? And I'd like to help put something together to go out publicly like that.
Yeah.
You were also gonna show us numbers between Garland and Tremont, if you can put those numbers together too. I wanna see those. That would be good.
I should have emailed you guys all the slides, but I'll bring those to you, physical copy.
Okay.
That way you have all that there.
Okay, you ready to move on?
I think so.
Let's move to the next item, rezoning portions of parcel, located at 771 East Main Street from the residential district to a mixed-use zone. Sean, you want to explain that to us?
Yes. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing on rezoning some property, and let me get you oriented to where it's at. There should be right there. Okay, so 775 East, I believe, is the cross street and Main Street. It's where there is an office, a professional office. I think Dr. Miller is primarily operating out of that office space right now.
Therapy's there too.
Okay.
Therapy and State Farm.
Yeah.
And Teresa Sandal's home residence is to the west, right there. So behind Teresa Sandal's property, there is essentially a half-acre lot. And there is no frontage, as you can see. It's not a flag lot in the sense that it has its own right-of-way that it owns. It has and possesses what we've been told is a access easement across the Sandal residence property. So the office building wants to acquire or wants to turn a portion of that vacant lot into a parking lot to supplement the parking that they have. It's a little underparked based upon the land use as being more prominently a doctor's office, a professional doctor's office. There's more patients that come as a result than the typical retail or office space parking standard. So scroll to the next. So I thought we went through a pretty good public process where, of course, the residents were notified. I wasn't at that meeting. I was ill that evening at Planning Commission, but I think there was a pretty good turnout.
They had quite a few neighbors come that were concerned.
And so anyways, what the Planning Commission ultimately did is they tabled the rezone until they could till the applicant could submit a concept plan of what that parking looked like so that we could understand if it was feasible, if it would meet all the dimensional standards in our zoning ordinance, and also, and I think importantly, to see what the remainder property would be, because as you can see there, they're not planning on using the entire amount for parking. And so there is enough room for at least an R18 residential lot, so 8,000 square foot lot. We calculated it being closer to 9,000. So the surrounding property that's residential is zoned R110, 10,000 square feet. So it's in rough proportionate to essentially what's being surrounded as far as what that building lot would be. So what's being proposed ultimately in this resolution is that you rezone a portion of that lot to mixed use, the portion where the parking lot will be, to match the zoning of the office building. And then you would zone the remainder of the property as R18 as a single-family 8,000 square foot lot. There is a few caveats included in there that they would need to they would actually need to make the improvements within a 3-year period of time. You know, this zoning is really specific to what's being proposed, and if that proposal was not acted upon, it would be odd to have a small, isolated, essentially have no access, a parcel of property that was mixed use that had no access. The residential lot would still retain the access. So for that reason, there's a sunset clause included in the zoning ordinance. There's also allowed a little bit of administrative discretion if needed to make this plan work. In concept, as we look at this plan, we believe that they meet the city's dimensional standards, but in case they don't, there's a little bit of flexibility granted within the ordinance to essentially make make a plan similar to this work. It will benefit the public to have more parking off-street, and so for that reason, I think it's, the Planning Commission recommended that we approve it as explained.
Just quick, oh, sorry, quick question. So when the house gets built there, who dumps their garbage? Or how do they,
They'll have to wheel it out to Main Street.
that's just,
Yeah, good
and
question.
who's gonna, and so there's no responsibility for,
It'd still need to meet, it'd still need to have a fire hydrant. So I anticipate, I don't know where the fire hydrants are located.
There's probably one within the 400-600-foot distance. We just have to check for clearance so it could get to there.
sure, yeah.
No,
No,
just because
I-
it's within the distance, if there's houses and fences and everything, then there's something else would have to be done.
Yeah.
If a house ever did go there, that would be part of it.
So then basically the house, I mean, just like we talked, the access to the house is through the parking lots.
That would
No.
be the only
That would be
place.
the
Through
only-
Teresa Sandals'
He
property.
has a tent over here on the
Oh.
side, you see.
Oh, that little piece
Yeah,
that's
it's like a 12-foot.
Go back if you would. I think it's
got
a,
an easement there?
Where they have a
Oh.
trailer parked, right there.
no, it's on the other side.
The other
the other
side,
side.
by the S.
Yeah. It's by Best
Okay.
Realty,
Yeah,
right there.
that's a legal right-of-way right there.
Yeah, you don't see it because it's not,
But it's,
it's an easement, and easements don't show up on the
It's like
parcel.
10, 12 feet wide.
no,
So you're basically gonna end up with a flag lot, kind of.
You're right, in function.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
But the access now will come from the Miller side, right?
On
That's where the road
north
will.
side.
For the parking lot only.
So, yeah, it'll
Yeah, so
come,
that's where the access is.
Just the
My
wheelchair ramp
question
and
is,
all
is
that,
Teresa
right?
okay with this?
Oh, yes.
She's okay with
She
it?
is thrilled.
Good.
She was concerned once about what was gonna go there.
She
and-
is fine.
I remember a 1-hour discussion in the city council over
Yeah.
this lot.
She was fine with it.
Take a quick break there.
So, if it's zoned multi-use, does R18 not fit within that zone?
An R18, well, the mixed use is so open-ended. It's a zoning district that I think needs to be fixed. I don't think it fulfills its purpose. And I feel like, so I'm always hesitant to zone property mixed use because it's just so open-ended. So that's why I really wanted it to reflect what was being proposed and not have the whole parcel be an R18.
So we have another island in the middle of nowhere that's an R18.
yeah, is there
I'm
anything-
not sure.
Yeah, because I don't think the Best Realty and all them are, couldn't you
Yeah.
do an overlay to protect that versus another island? I mean,
Well, I'm not really sure, is your concern, because all the properties surrounding to the north is R110, which is in close proximity to R18. I think the lot's going to be actually bigger than the minimum, which was that 8,000 square feet. I think it could be upwards of close to 9,000. I would say, I think most of the lots, because when you hear the R110, that's 10,000 square feet, that's the minimum. I think some of those lots within the Holmgren is actually greater than the 10,000 square feet. So I kind of realized that. But there's no problem with having, sometimes people call them spot zones. There's no issue legally with having, you don't have to have your district be a certain size or a certain number of parcels. It can really be whatever you zone the property to be. So we'll do a lot line adjustment. I don't know if I explained that to you, but between the office and where the parking lot will be, we'll move the lot line and adjust it so that the parking lot, that additional parking lot is going to be on the same parcel as the existing office building currently. They call that a lot line adjustment.
okay. Next, Resolution 2326, supporting the creation of Utah Inland Port Authority Project.
We've got some representatives too. Maybe we could pull open the Box Elder County web viewer. Let me introduce who we have here. I believe Ben, is that right? Yes. Ben, and we have
The other guy
Scott.
took off right when we needed to.
He was getting close.
So let me just preface this, and then I'll turn it over to Ben and Scott to talk a little bit more about the inland port. It's something that I'm still learning about. And we also have Ben, the executive director, potentially available. Okay, so he may join and add to the conversation. But if you could pull up the Lazy Boy area. Currently, there's a developer that owns property in Tremonton and has options for property in Garland. And they've been marketing a site to potential prospective end users. And as we've talked about here multiple times in the RDA and in the city council meeting about creating project areas for the purposes of creating or generating tax increment. In this case, the Inland Port Authority, they have a little different term because they're codified in a different section of the state code, and it's called tax differential. But essentially, the individuals who own, the partnership who owns the Lazy Boy plant also owns the parcel to the north. If you could pan up, Lindsay, or pan down to move the image up, right there is owned by Millstream as well. They have options on some property going north. The property that you see that is in Tremont city limits is landlocked right now. And so it would be beneficial to try to provide access to that parcel of property, which would come through the Garland properties. And so, anyways, what's being proposed with Inland Port is that we explore the creation of a project area, just like we've talked about, just like we've done for West Liberty Foods and Multimill, but it would be done instead of by the Tremont City RDA through the Inland Port. And there's some advantages to doing that and potentially some disadvantages, frankly. And I'll let these guys, I'm giving you my narrative and commentary, and they can add to it and frankly correct me if I misspoke or give a different perspective if one's needed. But the Inland Port Authority has the ability, and this is one of the advantages, to essentially create a project area without going to all the taxing entities and requesting participation. Essentially, in the past, through the RDA, we have to approach the school district, we have to approach the county and ask them to participate and enter into interlocal agreement. The state statute gives the Inland Port Authority with the city's permission to go ahead and create a project area independent of those other taxing entities. Where we lose a little bit of control from a statutory perspective is it's the Inland Port that's essentially has the legal authority, creates the project area, receives the tax increment, essentially administers, adopts the plan and budget like we've talked about. So that's the absolute authority that they have, but they've also talked about what they would do is create a partnership with the city. And in practice, they would partner with us and work with us on developing that project area plan and budget, work with us in deciding who would actually be incentivized, work with us on what infrastructure we need to make this project successful. So they would essentially give us a seat at the table where I don't think statutorily they need to. And Scott and Ben can kind of talk more about that. But that's what's being proposed is you adopt this this authorizing resolution to explore the creation of a project area. And there are some, in speaking with Ben, the executive director, we went back and forth and amended the resolution to more accurately reflect, what the intentions are, which is again to give the city a seat at the table and to work with the Inland Port Board, who would ultimately adopt adopt the plan. So the Inland Port Authority staff would draft the project area plan and budget, and the actual adoption of the plan would be through the Inland Port Authority Board. So, but I think that might be a good time to pass the torch over to Ben and Scott, and
Passed.
they can add to it.
Thanks, Sean. That was a really good explanation. Thank you for having us. Pleasure to be here. My name is Ben Bies. I'm the Deputy Director. Apologies for Ben Hart. He is at a similar meeting down in Spanish Fork right now, so we're dividing and conquering, and you got the lesser half of the two Bens at the Inland Port. So this is Scott Wolford. He's the Vice President of Business Development, and he can get into some of the real specifics of what we're looking to do. But just want to reiterate what Sean said. He's right on the mark with everything he said. A couple of things I want to hit on. So in 2018, the Utah Inland Port Authority was created. The legislature gave us a project area in the northwest part of Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County. They also gave us the ability to create these project areas elsewhere in the state. We just had our first one adopted down in Iron County, just west of Cedar City, for new commercial development that's going down there, industrial park that's going down there. We are also looking to do several up in Box Elder County, as well as the Spanish Fork one. We've been in talks with Tooele County and City and Grantsville. So we've kind of been all around the state talking about what we can do. So like Sean mentioned, one of the big benefits is with the new CRA law, you kind of got rid of the old model where you used to have a group of 6 people that vote on the participation rates for the entire group. Now as you know, with the RDAs, you have to go in and do an interlocal agreement with every taxing entity. Our statute makes it really simple in that if you invite us in and our board adopts a project area plan and budget and adopts the project area, we get 75% tax increment over 25 years. With the option to add on another 15 years after that for a total of 40 years. The downside, potential downside that Sean mentioned is that you're kind of putting your trust in us rather than taking on, as the redevelopment agency, those funds and that tax increment that you'd collect. Tax differential, I have to catch myself. Really one of our goals is to assure you that we want to be good partners with you. We don't want to come in and dictate how this development occurs, dictate how the money is spent. Our ability to create project areas is really short-lived if we're not a good partner with the different cities and counties that we're working with. So certainly we're happy with the resolution and the changes that were made. We do want to be good partners. We think there's a lot of exciting things we can do, not only here, but elsewhere in the county, and hopefully coordinate all those areas into really helping this site develop and grow, create jobs, get more property taxes, get more people working in Garland. Tremont, thank you. We're also working in Garland.
Garland too.
Yeah.
So, Scott, what did I miss?
No, not much. It was nice to attend your RDA prior. Typically, we have a lot more educating to do of city councils, but this is pretty easy. As Director Bice said, it's a 25-year increment. We would be happy if there are concerns to enter into an interlocal agreement with the city to codify any type of governance or how things are spent. The 75% differential that comes to us is required to be spent either in the project area itself or have a nexus to the project area. If you need power generation or sewer or roads, something to encourage development and vertical build in that area. Those are the things that it's required to be spent on. That's a two-edged sword. We can't take Tremont dollars somewhere else, but we also can't bring Salt Lake City dollars into Tremont. And so the magic that happens with the port project area is through that tax increment financing, that tax differential that Sean and Ben talked about. I would add, just as a personal, before I keep going, I managed your 911 center a handful of years ago under the under the Dave Nance as chief, not that long ago, and Chief Battis as fire chief. And I'm a little jealous on the full-time fire department. While they were great as a volunteer force, that sure would have been nice. Eligible expenses that could be used, we could recruit businesses. We can do some into affordable housing to help with kind of the efforts that you already have. Any questions?
In that district,
Well, affordable housing is a community.
okay?
And so if you've got an entity that's already doing that, absolutely, we can move funds to that entity.
So, let me ask you a question.
Please.
Why would we want to give up 25% of a taxing dollars that we can do ourselves with an RDA? What makes it worth giving up 25%?
Sure. A couple of things. One, that we're a very streamlined process that we can implement very quickly. Typical RDAs, we hear that sometimes they take multiple years to negotiate with the downstream taxing entities, and you speak for the downstream taxing entities. So we could be as quick as a 2-month or even a 6-week. We're required 3 meetings, a resolution from the legislative body, and then 2 board meetings of our board. So Spanish Fork, we anticipate right now is passing a resolution. We're going to hold our first meeting on May 11th, and then towards the end of June, create that Spanish Fork project area. It's very quick. We also think there are benefits to being an inland port project area where it gives some exposure in recruitment. It also opens up some eligibility in federal grants for building out infrastructure, and we think that's going to be a benefit. Our goal on the back end that you don't have to think about, your focus should be creating a regional economic engine to benefit your community. But we want to align what's going on with a statewide logistics plan. We want to get trucks off the road where it makes sense. We want to encourage the use of rail, which you guys are in just a fabulous spot to accomplish that. Strategically, Tremont and Garland, Elwood is just a wonder. There's a reason the Golden Spike is right down the road from you. It's a great spot. So we think that by having these project areas around the state, it allows for some synergy between the different areas, as Ben talked about, Cedar, Spanish Fork, Tooele County, Carbon County, at some point, maybe down the road in Brigham and Ogden City. We think there's some synergy there, and we think we can bring some benefits to the community. I'm talking fast.
And can I clarify one thing, Councilman? So the 75-25 split, the 25 is what will pass through to the city and school district and other taxing entities. You're not giving out 25%.
Giving up 75.
That's one way of looking at it, but I bet if we look at the property tax collected from that parcel right there, you're probably not getting a whole lot from that now. If we can put some big buildings on there, not only
Several hundred employees coming in
several
there
hundred
every day.
employees, the 25% you get is going to be a lot more than you're getting now. Certainly, we do typically charge an admin fee as part of that, just like the RDA typically does. But you're not giving up that. We'll reinvest the money. That other 95% will work very closely with you and direct that money where you want it within that project area or benefiting that project area.
We'd like to think you're just giving up the administrative function of that project area to us.
So, define for me, if you will, inland port. Does that mean transferring from train to truck? I mean, what is an inland port?
It certainly can be that, but we like to right now just think of it as an industrial park, some level of manufacturing or distribution that we're managing the public financing component. Are there elements in the state that are going to have a logistical resource, a transload, truck to train, air to truck? Absolutely. Is that something that we're going to put in Tremont? And we don't have any plans right now. Frankly, the plans that we've discussed surround recruiting a core industry to provide jobs in the area.
Yeah.
What piece is that we're talking?
Where the arrow's at?
Okay. And why are we landlocked there?
Well, because that rail interrupts it. It's hard to get a crossing over that rail, the rail spur.
No, we don't.
We do.
Oh, we do.
We own it?
We own that
I had to go
corridor.
plow it off twice this morning. Why couldn't we there's 2 of them over there already in the steeple place.
Yeah,
They cross over it.
One's manufacturing.
One's manufacturing. I don't see how we're landlocked crossing our own railroad track unless it's
well, we
the
don't.
lazy boy.
So that's where my question, the infrastructure, that's in Garland, isn't it? that parcel we're talking about?
No,
with the
that's
arrow on it?
Tremont
It's Tremont with the
right
polka
there.
dotted line there?
On the other side, north of it is Garland.
Okay, so
They
it's all
want
in
to, they want to
Tremont.
use both port.
That parcel, but the project area that, I mean, I mentioned to you Millstream, who owns Lazy Boy. I believe if you zoom in close enough, let's look, it'll say that they own it. Scroll up to the next part. Oh, it's still showing Richard Marks. I thought, oh, they have an option to purchase it. I think they own the one in Garland. So if you keep scrolling, so those two that are owned showing Richard Marks, I think they have options to purchase. But that MSP Garland is Millstream, who owns the Lazy Boy, who would essentially, is marketing those 3 parcels of property as an industrial site.
So, I mean, that's where I'm really hesitant with this thing is when you cross lines and now you become partners with Garland, who's going to be responsible to provide the water, the sewer, and who pays for it and who gets the benefit?
Well, we already have that to some degree already with Autoleave. Essentially, the city line goes right through that facility. So in that case, it was primarily developed in Tremont, and so Tremont's providing that. I think the same is going to be for this, being that Garland would do the sewer and do the water, but we really need to see what the actual development proposal is to sort of understand where they're going to tie the utilities in. But that's what I would
So how does that
anticipate.
work with the current company we have, Autoleave? How do we
Yeah, that
participate
blast
with Garland?
out back.
So
Taxes be participated? Is this-
there's, yeah, they built over the parcel line, and so because there's 2 different parcels, they know exactly, they assess it differently, and they separate the taxes. So you can see it right there, going through.
Originally, it was all built in Tremont, and as they expanded,
Right.
they went north.
And so
But
when
we
you get,
provide, we used to provide all the water and all the sewer. We still provide all the sewer. We provide all the water within the facility. Garland has extended their water line, so there's some fire hydrants outside the facility, but we provide all the water and sewer
Same's true with
facility in Tremont and in Garland.
Same's true with the high school. It's sort of this hybrid of the 2 cities providing different utilities in different locations. But I think it would really open an opportunity for Tremont to do this. I would also say, Mayor Pro Tem, that currently the CDA that we have is 75% goes to the RDA, 25% goes to the other taxing entities, and I think it's, maybe that's where it's trending in general to get buy-in from these other entities. I think everyone now it's not as easy to create a project area, I think, as it once was. We've had some good partners with other taxing entities, but I think just sort of across the state, what I've heard is that it's getting more and more difficult to get everyone aligned, because everyone does have different pressures and different values and responsibilities. And so this is a tool that the legislature is given to sort of help be able to move economic development forward. I would tell you, we've contemplated doing an interlocal agreement. That's in the resolution. There's some other provisions in there that formalize what Ben and I have talked about. But this could be really your only opportunity to see and approve, take action on this specific issue. As we've discussed, it will generally be handled and facilitated by the Inland Port Authority and their board. So just to be aware of that. But as I mentioned, the plan is for the mayor and the city manager to be very involved in the conversations and in coordination with them and what we want to see the project work towards. I would tell you, one of the things I've talked to Ben already about is improving that 1000 North, 1000 West intersection. It's not potentially contiguous, but there is an allowance in the state code, is what he's informed me, to essentially allow some of the tax differential, which is, again, the same as tax increment, but in this context, it's tax differential. But to essentially improve that intersection, to have turning movements at all four legs of that intersection. So that's just one example of what the increment could be used for.
So what is it that we're
So-
deciding on tonight?
So you would adopt a resolution that authorizes the Inland Port Authority to create a project area plan and budget ultimately. And as I mentioned, there's some terms in there where the executive directors agreed to accommodate some of our concerns and allow us to be actively involved in the conversation and the creation of this project area plan and budget. So it's really similar to the RDA because, as we've talked about, you have to create a plan that shows what you're going to do with the money and a budget, not only what you're going to do, but how much is it going to cost. And that's what this Inland Port Authority Board would approve. And we could pass information back to you, but you wouldn't really be involved in any approvals going forward. Potentially, there's the chance that we could do this interlocal agreement and you might even be involved in adopting an interlocal agreement between the city and the Inland Port Authority. But going forward, you're essentially authorizing them to move forward with creation of a project area plan and budget that's within, their realm of.
So Sean, are we approving it to go ahead with it, or are we just saying look into it?
Well, both. You're saying look into it, but you're also, because of the statute and how it's written, you're saying, you're giving them the authority to create it if they so choose, with a few caveats. I mean, like one of the things that they said is that, we could have a seat at the table. If you look at the resolution, that the mayor and the city manager could participate and decide how to use tax increment. They also said that we could withdraw, the mayor could ask them to withdraw it, and they would withdraw the project creation. So there's a little bit of ability that they're allowing us, to include in the resolution, but the idea is that you give them the authority to do that primarily.
We would, Councilman Vance, obviously work hand in hand with your agent, if that's administrative staff or it's a elected official, to build the plan and budget document out. And we would certainly not present it in front of our board until you were 100% comfortable with it. One of the things that I left out, and I apologize, we do have an infrastructure bank similar to the UDOT State Infrastructure Bank, with one big difference in that we can loan not just to a public entity, but to a private entity. State finance rate's pretty good right now compared to market, and that can hasten the speed of horizontal development build. By utilizing that, we can get funds for road or sewer or whatever else that is that they need pretty quickly into their hands. But again, we would not present a budget that you were not comfortable with, but Sean is correct, that by the resolution, you're authorizing us to begin the creation of that document.
And your big selling point is that you can bring the business in, whereas we would have a lot harder time doing that.
We think so. We think so. Corporate recruitment is one of those boxes. We stack with the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. They're different taxes, so EdTIF and working with EDC Utah are still on the table. So we feel like we bring a very competitive offering to businesses in the area, and certainly part of that plan and budget, we want to recruit who you want in your community. I don't know what your job flight numbers look like. We looked at Garland, and I wish I had those off the top of my head. What percentage of your residents are going somewhere else to work every day? And we would like to take a bite out of that. Keep some more of them here, because we think there are a lot of folks that are going as far as BDO and Ogden to go to work.
And frankly, the daytime population influences other business opportunities. That's one of the things they'll look at is what is your daytime population for retail or restaurants more specifically. So it's an important element to try to build our daytime population.
Can we get lined up to talk to some other cities that are doing this
Absolutely.
before we say go ahead?
That's me. I kind of don't, I think it's a big move with a 10-minute discussion.
Yeah, I reached out to the Utah League of Cities and Towns. I tried to catch up with Cameron today, excuse me, because he has a pretty good reach and understanding. You know, I think one of the things that, you know, because we are statutorily, you know, we have our limitations, but they've allowed us to put some caveats into this resolution. And at the end of the day, you know, he mentioned, and I think there's a lot of truth behind this, is if they if they come in and get a bad reputation with one city, really undermines their ability going forward to work with other cities. You know, word gets around. They're at the beginning stages, as I understand it, reaching out and working with cities and counties, with Iron County being the first one. So they're working on developing and building their reputation, but I don't think there's been a lot of cities that have gone through the process full enough to be able to speak to the ultimate outcomes. But you know, from what they've talked to me and all the conversations, you know, they've represented and acted as great partners in trying to promote economic development. There is a little bit of urgency because there is a potential user that is looking at this property. And so having the incentives, I mean, what developers want, not only economic developers, but just developers in general, you know, they want speed and certainty. Those two things help them to sort of hit their marks. And so by, you know, being able to move forward, you know, we're keeping on pace with what their timelines are and giving them a little bit more certainty with potential incentive packages that could be offered to them.
So like, again, infrastructure, so they can decide who's going to come in. We don't really have any say. So if they are demanding a lot of water, like West Liberty Foods, I mean, we don't have a lot of water.
Yeah,
So
and
we committed to give them water?
No, we say we can't do it.
We can say we can't do it.
We don't have land use authority, we don't have zoning authority, that all remains here. And one of the things in the Salt Lake plan and budget is they put a hard cap on water consumption as far as not just recruiting, but what businesses would be and that's just fine. That's 100% your prerogative, and not just for creation, throughout the lifespan of the project area. That's you.
Yeah.
Are you dealing with this with any other cities that are lapping over where
The Salt Lake area has four governmental entities: West Valley City, Magna City, the county, and Salt Lake City.
it'd be interesting to talk to couple of those people to see.
Yeah, don't do that. They're the worst.
Don't do that, huh?
Iron County was adopted in, and Cedar City is looking to amend already and add their Port 15 into the project area.
Okay, we need to take a break for 5 minutes, then we'll get started.
Thanks.
Yeah, man.
like to welcome everyone to our city council meeting. We'd like to excuse Mayor Holmgren tonight. He's off on some family business, and so I'll be stepping in his place for tonight. Mayor,
Pro tem.
Pro Tem,
okay.
MPT.
We would like to introduce those from the city that are here tonight. We have Sean Warnke, Wes Eastep, Connie Archibald, Lyle Vance, myself, Brett Rohde, Rick Siemens, Lindsay Nesson, and we have our police chief here somewhere. I saw him, Chief Cordova, and then Paul.
They're outside. somewhere.
Paul,
Okay, Paul and Mark are here as well.
Sarah?
And Sarah, yes, Sarah and
Sarah.
Shari was here too, so
Yep.
we'd like to recognize them. We'd like to ask if there's any declarations of,
We gotta have the opening ceremony.
oh, okay, let's have an opening ceremony, and I've asked Rick to say the opening prayer. If anyone has any problems with us or any issues with us saying a prayer, you're welcome to step out for a minute and come back in, but we'll turn the time over to Rick, and then I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful for the opportunity we have to meet together as city council people tonight and to discuss the affairs that are important in our city here of Tremont. And we're grateful for the many blessings which we have and enjoy and in living in this city and in this valley. We're grateful for the opportunities and the rights that we have to be able to do the things that we want and enjoy, and for the fine nation which we live in. Father, we're grateful for all which we have and enjoy. Be with us and bless us that we might be civil one with another. We might be able to discuss the things that are pertinent and important and be able to feel like we can accomplish things. Grateful for all which is ours, and we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
And
If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, now I'll open it up for a declaration of any conflict of interest in our meeting tonight.
I think I gotta declare with being a full-time employee.
Okay, we'll have a declaration by Wes Eastep. How about an approval of the agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
I'll second.
Okay, approval by Lyle Vance, seconded by Rick Siemens. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes of April 4th, April 10th, and April 24th, 2023.
I'll make a motion this evening that we approve the minutes for April 4th, April 10th, and April 24th.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Connie and a second by Wes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the part we are all looking forward to and why we have so many guests here tonight. Several months ago, our two council people on the side here come up with a great idea to recognize the citizenship within our schools here inside of Tremont City. So with that in mind, I'd like to turn the time over to Connie and Wes to present these awards to those that have earned them.
This is really a special time for us as Tremont City Council. We applaud students that represent citizenship. In our schools, in our elementary schools, and in our intermediate school, they talk a lot about citizenship. Citizenship has a lot to do with being respectful, being responsible, and being safe. The students we're going to honor tonight have been recognized as students that demonstrate this in their schools. And I will say that this comes partly from their homes. So thank you to you parents that teach your children about being good citizens. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to mention the name of the student. The student's going to come up. We have a gift card from
Twisted Sugar.
Twisted Sugar. So this is extra special, right? So I hope to pronounce everybody's names right. As I've looked over all these names, please help me if I don't pronounce just right, okay?
Do we have any principals?
And do we have principals here? Mark Taylor, is Wendy Dunham, or Principal Lee? Okay, okay. We always love our principals to come, so. All right, I'm gonna go to North Park first. So our first student being recognized tonight is Raiden Vance. Thank you, Raiden. Our next student from North Park is Bevanly McKnight? Bevanly McKnight. Anybody here by that name? Okay. All right, let's move on to our next one. Riker Hartley. Thank you, Riker. Another student from North Park, Sophie Archibald. Is Sophie here?
Congratulations. Come on up here and pick a spot.
The next student from North Park is Mikkel Shields. Mikkel. That's okay. You're fine.
All
You're
right.
fine.
He'll be all right.
You can go over sister.
The next student from North Park is Nixon Weston.
Good job, kid. Don't lose that card.
Don't they all look so sharp? Thank you, the one with the cool. Okay. Then let's go to McKinley. Let's go to McKinley. Carson Gibbs.
Shirt on.
I'm liking all these Tremont and City
Job.
shirts.
This is from McKinley. Rauma Olson? Rowena. Thank you.
Good job.
Wonderful. Now, I don't know how, is it Kaikea? Kaikea?
Luana, come on up here.
Say it again. Kaika. Pula? Thank you for helping us with that. Zoe Poppleton from McKinley. And we have a Travin Enrod. Is Travin here? Also from McKinley, Emily McDermott. Emily McDermott. Aria James. Aria James.
Good job. Come over here with the rest of them.
And from Alice C. Harris Intermediate School, we have Logan Adrian. Is Logan here by chance? No? Okay. And also from Alice C. Harris, Rusty Nelson. Rusty, oh,
Yeah.
Leah, is it Leah Hamlin?
Leah.
Leah, okay. And we're gonna have a picture, so those of you that wanna take a picture, you're welcome to. Let's kind of squish together, let's put the taller ones in the back, maybe. Could you come forward just a little bit?
We'll just, the three of us will be here and then we'll be all decent. Get over here.
Okay.
Oh, what?
This is great.
Is he here?
How does this look for a picture?
Perfect. Ready? Nixon, look here, you can smile. Ready?
Sure.
Zoe, let me see your certificate.
Smile, making them cookies. Woo-hoo.
Smile, baby. Ready?
Good job, baby.
Did she call him? I don't think so. You might want to find out before we.
You send it to me? Did she? Okay, I didn't hear it.
Okay.
Good job.
Good job, thank you. Everybody's your friend. You can have Christmas cards.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much, and congratulations. Wait a minute for the new youth council, all the youth council to come in.
I'm just gonna stay down
You
here.
did a great job in seeing you two. Awesome.
That was fun. I just screwed up his names, but.
You need to be doing that every month.
Huh?
You need to do that
Oh,
every
I
month.
loved it. It was so fun.
Both of you need to be doing that.
Fun. So,
No, that guy made it kind of fun.
yeah.
It's
A lot of people. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's on the corner, so
Well worth it. Well worth it.
So too. I hope that this is not Beverly.
I'm just gonna walk back out.
You know what I should have asked? If there was anybody that we missed. Hopefully not. But do you think this is Beverly? Bevanley?
But, you know, my guess is as good as yours. After going through those initiatories, I mean, you can say anything you want to say.
yeah. And that's the whole thing right there.
I'm like, you know what though? Here's what's fun.
Give him a brownie.
You know, Dale speaks Dutch.
Oh,
So those Netherlands cards come through and Dale
those
just rattles those off.
Norwegian, some of those names are like,
He can do those just like that beautifully.
I mean, he can probably speak Navajo too, to be able to speak Norwegian.
My husband can do that. German,
You know, I
those
mean, as
German
far
names
as
are so.
we have someone, then that's another thing.
I don't know the right word.
You have to speak from,
Yes,
Oh, I was gonna say,
guttural
like an
type.
unhappy child,
that would be a fun language,
Oh,
those kids.
he speaks it.
German.
My husband speaks German a little bit.
Wow,
Not a lot,
everyone
but
did clear out.
went to the Netherlands.
Who's the new mayor?
German and Dutch are very similar.
Crazy.
And he does a really good job in the temple.
I've got it. Oh, yeah, well, I'll need those.
Can't hold that many
Hey.
Okay, welcome. We're so thankful to have our new and old Youth City Council here. We appreciate all that you have done and all that you will do. We're impressed to see how many of the youth come out and help participate in this activity. We'd like to thank Carolyn Burgesson and all those that work with you on this project. You do a great job. Thank you so much. This year, the Youth City Council has collectively put in over 500 volunteer hours in service. Thank you. I got to get closer. Okay. We appreciate the outgoing group and wish the graduating seniors well in their next steps. Wes Estep is over the Youth City Council, and so I'm going to turn the time over to Wes to finish out. Wes and Lindsay.
Okay, I, as a councilman, just wanna thank you guys. I mean, I don't think they had this when I was a kid or whatever, but the steps the choices you're making today are gonna affect your future. I got a feeling that if we'd have had what we just had for them little kids, every one of you would have been in that. You're showing that, you're showing adulthood as a young men and young women, and as a city, we're very proud of it. Let's see, Reed, can you come up? We appreciate Reed and his willingness to serve and lead. He has chosen to attend USU, go Aggies, and study engineering after he returns from his church mission serving the people of El Salvador. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
That one should have your name.
Thank you.
Emmeline?
She couldn't get off of work, so her sister's gonna go ahead.
Okay.
Represent.
You're coming. Sisters can do that. Okay? Emmeline Reese is the outgoing city manager, which, just like Sean here.
Outgoing?
Has been a member for 1 year. We appreciate Emmeline's willingness to jump in, lead big group activities, and complete details behind the scenes. Emmeline will be attending USU in the fall and plans to study plant science. Again, we appreciate our youth. We know that with youth, of you kids nowadays, you're gonna be up here someday, but thank you for everything that you've done. Make sure your sister gets that kid. Now, I believe Lindsay's gonna swear in the new ones.
Good
If you guys
job.
wanna come up here, I'll have you face that way so you can see your family and friends while you.
Come on up.
Come behind
Come on up here and just line up here and face that way.
Short one's in the back, tall one's in the front.
You're doing that.
Who's that? Who's that? Oh, yeah.
Mr. Furtick.
Okay, you're all gonna
yes.
raise your right hand and you're gonna repeat after me. I state your name. Do affirm that I will support. Obey and defend. The Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Utah. And that I will discharge the duties. Of my office with fidelity. All right. You get pictures, so don't move while I'm saying that.
Great job. That's the same oath that we take, so.
Just a sec before you do, you guys stand up and let's stand up behind him so we can support.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Carolyn, do we have a mayor?
Oh, yes. They get one copy of that.
Who's our mayor?
David Burgess will be the mayor for this upcoming year.
Okay, and?
Beckham Sanders will be the city
Manager?
manager.
Okay.
Marianne Reese will be the historian, and Allie Troop will be the city recorder.
Oh. Great.
Perfect.
And you don't have any personality like your sister, so.
Oh, that was Reese kids.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming tonight.
Thanks, you guys.
Looking forward to plans.
Gotta clap happy tonight.
Awesome.
No one's going to stay.
Ain't hard to put on a little polish and.
Reese's are great. Thank you.
Who is the guy in the suit?
It's Mr. Reese, R-E-E-S.
Okay, now is a point in our program where public comments. This is an opportunity to address the city council regarding concerns or ideas. And we would like you to keep your comments to 3 minutes if you could. Anyone that would like to take a minute are welcome to come up and speak. Okay, going, and gone. Now, bear with me, we are going to now go through a public hearing on the CDBG grant, and I have some specific language we need to use, so I'm going to do that at this point. We're going to open a second public hearing for the CDBG program. This is an opportunity for all citizens to provide input concerning the project that was awarded under the 2023 Community Development Block Grant Program. The city has amended its capital investment plan and decided to apply for funds on behalf of the Aquifer Storage and Recovery, ASR, for the Cedar Ridge well located on approximately 12420 North Hillcrest within the Cedar Ridge Subdivision Phase 1 in unincorporated Box Elder County. The project manager is Mayor Lyle Holmgren. Tremont City's application was successful in the regional rating and ranking process, and Aquifer Storage and Recovery, ASR, for the Cedar Ridge well was awarded a total of $200,000 with the cost estimate to be $318,000. Tremont City proposes to have Tremont City proposes to have designed and constructed an aquifer storage and recovery ASR project. This ASR project would inject the Cedar Ridge well with culinary water during low demand times, October to April, to extract culinary water during higher demand months of June through September. At this time, we'd like to turn it over to the public for any questions or concerns about this project. Okay. Copies of the capital investment plan are available if anyone would like a copy. We'll go ahead and at this point adjourn the public hearing for this CDBG program.
Good job.
Perfect. Okay. New council business. Let's go on with item number
We have
8.
another public hearing.
You got 8B.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Now we'll open it up for a public hearing to consider adopting the tentative annual budget entitled the Tremont City Annual Implementation Budget 2023-2024. Anyone from the public would like to make any comments at this point? Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on the Tremont City Annual Implementation Budget 23-24. Now we can go on to new council business. Okay. Letter A, discussion and consideration of approving the March financial statements.
Make a motion, we approve the March financial statements.
I'll second.
Approved by Lyle, seconded by Rick. All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion and consideration of approving the March warrant register.
I'll make a motion, we approve the March warrant register.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made by Rick and seconded by Connie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 2325, adopting the tentative annual budget entitled the Tremont City Annual Implementation Budget 2324. Do we have any further questions at this point? We had some discussion earlier in our work session. This is a tentative budget, so this will just keep us moving forward on an actual final budget in 2 sessions from now, correct?
3.
3 sessions from now?
Yes. The end of June, the last meeting in June.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
Oh, I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution 2325.
Connie, did you have a question?
I'll second that.
Okay,
No, I was going to
okay.
make the motion.
Wes makes the motion and Connie seconds it. This is a roll call, so I think we're starting with Connie first.
Connie Archibald.
Aye or nay?
Aye.
Wes,
Sorry.
I.
Rick, I.
Brett, aye?
Lyle, aye.
Okay. Next, discussion and consideration of adopting ordinance number 2302, rezoning portions of the location behind 771 East Main Street from the residential district. It's now an R110 zone to mixed use, and then also a portion of that district would be zoned R18 behind a single-family home. Any questions or discussion on this point? We talked about this earlier.
Mr. Mayor, could I just, I think Micah might be here representing this application, or at least has some interest, and I believe I sent him the tentative resolution, because there are a few things that I just wanted to point out and make sure that everyone's understood it, which I think primarily for Micah's benefit, and hopefully had a chance to read it. Did you read it? Okay, you're okay. There was just a sunset clause that I wanted to bring to his attention, and it sounds like that was reasonable from his perspective. So I think it's ready for consideration.
I think so everybody can understand too. We had a work session that starts at 5, so we've talked about these in great detail before this meeting starts. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 23-02.
I'll second.
Okay, Lyle makes a motion and Rick seconds it. All in favor, excuse me, go ahead.
Wes, I.
Connie Archibald, aye.
Rick, I.
Brett, aye?
Lyle,
Sorry.
aye.
Very good. Motion passes. Okay, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 23-26, supporting the creation of a Utah Inland Port Authority project area in Tremonton City. I think we'll go ahead and invite you two up here again, because this was something we were in the middle of discussion, but we really didn't have our answers yet. So
Got moved.
there may be some more questions for, and what were your names again?
Scott Wolford, Vice President. Business
Scott and Ben.
Ben Bies, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I think at this point we can answer and discuss a little bit further. I think you have the general understanding of the pros and maybe the cons from the perspective of losing a little bit of control. I think we gain a lot of ability to market that property in return for letting the inland port be in charge of the project area and budget. So,
He's muted.
in addition,
So let me ask you a question. At one point, we were talking about this project area, and an entity was thinking of coming in. I don't know if that same one is thinking of it or not, but,
this is a new one.
okay.
Yes, that's
Okay.
good. And that was a high water user, for example.
Okay.
In the
Yes.
end, and sewer,
Yes.
sewer especially, if I remember right, but where there's sewer, there's water. So, right, this is something different. I think the current use is contemplated to be more warehousing and distribution. The property is zoned industrial. I don't know if you could look over your shoulder, Lindsay, and tell me what the parcel is. Right there.
Commercial district,
No, up the very top.
up top, R110,
No, keep going.
R1,
It's the gray one.
Everyone.
MD.
Yeah, there we go. Winner. So it is anticipated to be consistent with our zoning, and we don't give up the zoning, or still the approvals with land use applications.
Say that again?
We do not give up. They still need to meet our zoning requirements. They still need to apply and meet all our city standards for development. So there's no exemptions. It's the only piece that you're allowing a third party to act on is essentially the creation of that project area plan and budget.
So what if the mayor and/or you feel things are contrary to the direction that things are headed, can you override them, or?
Well, we did include, and again, this is beyond really what the statutes allows, but let's look at, can you pull up that resolution, Lindsay, and we'll look specifically at what the specific items that are included there.
Sean, this is Ben Hart, the Executive Director of the Inland Port. I'm on as well, just so you know.
Oh, perfect, and we might, Ben, do you want to interject at this point and add?
Now you got the 18.
Yeah. Let me first say, to answer that question, yes, mayor and city council, mayor and city manager will not only override and have veto authority, they'll have the ability to guide this process, all the investment throughout the entire 25-year. So this is not into perpetuity where this goes on forever. This is just a 25-year project area. So the mayor, city council, city manager are never giving up control. This is a partnership that will allow for that reinvestment. And so not only does the resolution spell that out in terms of the city's ability, but we want to make sure, and I've made this commitment all across the state, you're going to hear from us way more than we want to. We're going to be not doing anything unless we're sure that it's in accordance with what the city wants. And so as we're working through this process, we're going to go through and starting with a resolution if it's passed tonight. We'll start working on the project area plan and budget, and then we'll still have 2 follow-on public meetings now, and then we'll be able to move forward with this project area. And so again, all of this will be done fully in coordination, and the city council and or city manager and mayor will all have veto, but not just veto, they'll be guiding this process all the way through.
Yeah. Well,
So I got one question. Is this one that's got access through Garland, right?
correct.
Is some of this gonna be in Garland too if you acquire that other property?
We're not going to acquire any property. And so the broker that has been kind of looking at the area would kind of be in charge of that. There's certainly a delineation from our perspective, parcel by parcel. This is the part of the differential that Tremont controls in Tremont City. This is the part of differential that Garland. So regardless if it overlaps, it doesn't matter to us. It's your parcel is your parcel.
Yeah, but I would say, under the way the parcels are configured, what I anticipate happening is that Garland piece would be developed first, because that's where the utilities infrastructure would be, and then would be phased to the south. So, in order for our piece to really get developed, it's going to be later, it's going to be potentially a later phase is what the developer's anticipating just by the natural progression of development. So that's something to keep in mind. And there's only increment made if there's investment, increment created or different tax differential created if there's investment made. And so I'm not really sure, I guess it would be parcel by parcel. So, I'm not really sure, potentially we would work with them on trying to develop out that 1,000 North, 1,000 West intersection, because I think that would be really helpful. We'll have a traffic impact study that'll help, give some clarity to that intersection as well, and what this potential end user could require.
Can I just add, Sean?
Yeah.
We're talking about a very specific parcel, but I want to just make sure we're clear. You don't have to limit to that. It does not have to be contiguous. If there are other areas in the city that you want to be considered for growth out 84 in that area, you can have a non-contiguous port project area that again, it kind of spreads out where you can make that investment as far as.
Scott, let me add to that as well, that none of the money that is generated from the Tremont project area will ever flow into another community for development. It will stay in Tremont. If there's some roads that you want to improve near the site, if there's intersections, we've talked about perhaps even a trail system that the city is interested in. Those are all things that obviously we're supportive of, because that's what the city is telling us to do. And so 100%, you're not going to lose any funding to the neighboring communities. You're going to be able to reinvest this and direct it the way you want.
Councilman Vance, I know, loves the trail system.
Okay, so let me put this into
sir.
a very simple black and white question.
Shoot.
We have this RDA that we worked on, and we basically have $4 million a ceiling, a cap that could come to us from revenues, sales tax revenues. Now, if your inland port
Project area.
project area were to bid on a project, what percentage, what of that $4 million, you say 95% of that stays? How can I see that financially? How much goes to you, how much goes to the city?
So in this case, it's a statutory setup. So 75% is what the city can direct for reinvestment into the project area. 25% is going to be paid to the taxing entities at the current rate that it's currently distributed. So of that 25%, if the school district typically gets 50, it would continue to flow that way. So 75% is then what's able to be reinvested back into the project area. And again, that's at the direction of the city. So is that for, public improvements, public infrastructure, whatever it may be, that's the direction of the city.
So in that example, if you're talking $4 million in tax increment collected, then $3 million of that would go to this project area, less the admin fee.
Yeah, okay.
And $1 million pass through.
Minus the administration fee that you guys take out of it for doing that.
Exactly. And what we've told other communities about that is, in a project like this, tax differential in the early years is going to be very small. If you get this fully developed and you have a lot of capital development on the parcel, that's going to grow pretty rapidly. Those last years are going to be a lot. If we get to the point where clearly the administrative fee is in excess of the value we're providing, we'll work with you to reduce that. Certainly at the beginning, like I said, it's going to be a very small amount. Towards those latter years, if we feel like that's an unfair percentage, then we've committed every community we've been to that we can adjust that if necessary.
And if I could, just to somewhat quantify the value of the administrative fee, it's our logistics team, it's the contractors we have on to help build, design a good logistics plan. It's our marketing team. It's our grants portfolio manager. We have a vested interest, a commitment to building this project area. It certainly is going to benefit Tremont City, but us as well.
I got one question. Where the Borders auto leave, does them blast buildings have any concern to you guys?
We will do an assessment as part of the project area plan and budget document, both environmental and safety, and make sure that there are no surprises moving forward. So sure, but no. Yes.
And let me also just say, on the logistics piece, the other piece that this will give you access to, this opens up Tremont to be able to access the state's infrastructure bank as well. So if there is money that is not, tied to any, city requirements or anything like that, it's actually money that would flow from the state potentially for the city's purposes, but primarily tied to logistics. The reason I mention that is part of our effort, part of our charge is making sure we're taking trucks off the road. So if there are other big users in the community, this partnership will also allow for the facilitation of better cargo flow so that, you don't see trucks dominating the road. But this is really about growing in a way that provides better quality of life for citizens, less trucks on the road, less pollution, those dynamics.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
I have a question about the federal grant. You mentioned that this is eligible for federal grants. What can you tell me about?
There are monies that are made available for inland ports on a pretty regular basis, and we have a grants portfolio manager on staff who scours those looking for good fits within the project areas that we have. And so that would be not a one-time thing, but a consistent effort throughout the lifespan of the project area to make sure we're always leveraging as many of those federal dollars. It's not magic money. They're frequently strings. We'll watch.
Yes.
But I think we bring some added benefit there of it's tough to have a grant writer on staff. It's tough to kind of stay up on top of those, and the reporting requirements can be cumbersome. And so that's part of the administrative function we'll take on us. Oh, sorry, go ahead, boss.
Scott was just going to say quickly, if the city does not want us to take federal funds, we're not going to take federal funds. It's that simple.
I would add, we also have the authority to sponsor a PID. So if you wanted to isolate any exposure to the city on bonding, we could sponsor that, and the governance could be made up of private entities. And so we could help to isolate the city, but still raise funds for that horizontal above and beyond what we can do with our infrastructure bank. We think we bring a good package to communities, and we think certainly off the Wasatch Front, these are financial tools that haven't been available to a lot of communities. We can tell that you have leveraged value of RDA, CDA type entities, but this is focused on industry. This is focused on job creation, and we think we fill a good lane here, and we think we can be a good partner for Tremont City.
John?
I just wanted to clarify too. So this, we've been talking about a specific project area, but the resolution doesn't distinguish a project area. It's open-ended, meaning that there's other opportunities, to create project areas. And it was done a little strategically. So if you had concerns about it, we could maybe specify a geographic area where the project area would be created. And Ben and anyone else, correct me if I'm wrong, but otherwise, this allows project creation across the city. So I just want you to be aware of that element.
At the planning budget,
You said that perfectly. I was going to say that exact thing, but no, perfectly said.
the planning budget, when we finalize, has a legal description of the properties, and of course, you will sign off on that before it's
But
created.
that can also be amended. This is one where we may, if it's the will of the council and the mayor and the city manager, and we go forward with a project area plan and budget, if we adopt the project area, we may not trigger it for a couple of years, especially if this is going to be development that's going to start up north in Garland and work its way to Tremont. We wouldn't want to trigger this and start collecting that tax differential until you get a good development on your parcel. There's no reason to start that clock. So that gives a few years if we wanted to modify the project area plan and budget to include some other areas. In the meantime, as we're getting closer, we could definitely do that.
But it does lock in that 2022 base tax rate if you create now, even if we don't trigger it,
Yeah.
which can be beneficial.
And potentially, as we contemplate other areas of the city that we could really try to use this economic tool and leverage, the Morrison property, which is now owned by Price Realty. There's a road that we need to develop. It's 1650 West that would connect all the way into 1000 North. BR Mountain Road, we've talked about, there's a 90-acre parcel right next to the interchange or interstate off-ramp. And BR Mountain Road's that minor arterial road, and on that parcel, BR Mountain Road has to traverse a large slope. And so figuring out how we, grade that area potentially, or how that road's constructed, that would be potentially another good opportunity to try to use this economic tool, because that's probably going to be an expensive parcel to develop. So this tool's got me thinking about, other parcels that we could look to use that tool. And it's really helpful because, again, we can, with a partner like this, we can move through the process and have a surety on getting tax increment without having to go to each taxing entity and get their ultimate consent.
And as you said, a tool. So if we decide we want to run with a project in a different area ourselves, we're not obligated to use the Port Authority to run that project.
We can always create an RDA.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. But it's just a little harder administrative process.
I just wanted to understand our obligation.
Yeah.
Sean, Mayor, if I may as well, one of the other points I think is really salient here, to the last question, no, there's no out-of-pocket expenses for the city. We're paid by the state of Utah to help optimize rail in the state and really help develop out areas of economic focus that can really help to benefit the communities they serve for some time. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself, but I'll just say I spent 7 years working at Layton City, just south of you. work with a great team down there. I understand city development fairly well. And this is something, because we understand stakeholders, community groups that may be concerned, we're going to be in your community. We're going to come up and sit down with people who have concerns. Obviously, we're committed to signing an interlocal agreement to bind the Port Authority as well to ensure that the city's got confidence that we're moving forward in a good way. We're fine with all of that because we're very sure you're going to be pleased with the product and how we work together to help the city accomplish its goals, find funding for different projects, and ultimately help provide jobs that will keep your kids, your grandkids here for generations to come. That's kind of our goal.
Honey,
Are you ready for a motion?
any other questions?
So, we keep talking about all these great things that they're gonna be partners and participate with us and that type of stuff. So how much do you participate with other communities? I mean,
So we meet monthly with Danny Stewart, the Economic Development Director for Iron County. Everything we do goes through him. We submit a report, a State of the Inland Port, annually to Iron County, so the differential and the build is out there. We work with the private industries, Commerce Crossroads, and also Savage Rail Services, hand in hand, again, for that vertical build to create the differential. We work with the broker on what type of businesses are being recruited and how we make the most competitive pitch to bring those businesses in. When Director Hart says you'll get sick of hearing from us, that's our goal, is that you get sick of hearing from us.
so obviously, that money's used to invest in the area to try to entice other businesses to come in.
It's the magic.
So using it clear across town, it's got to benefit somehow a business coming in to get them here to use it.
Well, potentially, but remember, it's out your direction. And so in the resolution, there's language about the mayor and city manager vetoing any incentive. So if the city council, city manager, quite frankly, it doesn't even take a written email. They just need to send me a text and say, hey, Ben, this is a no-go. And it's done. So if there are business incentives that are concerning to the council or to anybody in the city, we're going to be responsive. We're not going to move forward unless we have support and approval for that. It just doesn't make sense for us to do that. If we're not locking stuff with what the city wants, we're just going to hurt our reputation, not only with the city, but across the state of Utah. And we always say this in every city, the only city we're working with is yours, I promise. But literally, we haven't worked with a whole lot of other cities, some counties for sure, but we're here to serve.
I can 100% guarantee we would not unilaterally offer a corporate incentive without full buy-in from Tremont City.
Anything else, Lyle?
I'll make a motion this evening that we approve resolution number 23-26.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we've got Connie gave us the motion and Rick a second. I believe, is it, Wes, it's your turn first.
Rick, aye.
Brett, aye.
Lyle, nay, I need more time to understand it better before we jump into it.
Connie Archibald, aye.
I'm a little on Lyle's side. I don't know if I understand it enough. So I gotta say nay and
Okay.
motion passed.
Motion passes.
But I will be in Sean's office and Mark's and
Mayor Pro Tem, we're happy to come
I
meet
may,
with,
you know.
with anyone on the council, in the city, otherwise to help get everyone comfortable with what we're doing, make sure we're all on the same page, and definitely be working very closely as we work on this project area plan and budget. So whatever you need from us to help you get comfortable, we'll commit to that certainly.
Well, I think part of the issue here is this is the first time we've heard of it. We really didn't get a good chance to study and figure it out. I think I got my questions answered pretty good, but I can really understand your questions.
I really would like to talk to another city, just to get a feel from.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to leave you some names.
That would, I would really appreciate
Paul
that.
Red the Street in Brigham City, Paul Larson would be a great place to start. Dave Anderson, Spanish Fork is a great.
can you
place.
give them to, can you get them to Sean and Sean
Send
can
our
send them to
references
us?
to Sean.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is Ben. I'll just second. Thank you for the support of the council. For those who had concerns, I second what Ben said. We're here to earn that respect and to help educate. And so, and to give assurance. And so we're here to help. There's some other people you can talk to. More than anything else, though, we want you to be able to talk to us and make sure that you're hearing from us how this will go, so that you get a level of comfort with how this will go. So thank you to the City Council. Thank you to the Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and Mark and Zach and Chris, I didn't see you here, so welcome. And Chief, I'm glad to see you sitting next to her.
Are they married yet?
No.
Soon.
24 days.
24 days.
All right. Discussion and consideration of adopting ordinance number 2327, acknowledging the submission of the UDOT submittal form for update of Class B or Class C mileage. Sean, is that yours?
It is, yeah. I just, I do this more for archives and keeping track of important elements. And this just updates the mileage that UDOT then uses in its formula to distribute our share of the gas tax. So there's not much more, I don't believe, that needs to be said, other than if you have any questions.
Okay, any questions? Motion, anyone?
I'll make a motion that we approve and adopt tonight ordinance number 23-27.
I'll second it.
Okay, Connie made a motion and Wes a second. Brett, aye.
Aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
West Eye.
Rick, aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 2328, approving the lawn care service agreement between Tremont and City and Double J Lawn Care.
So interesting.
That battery's
Mark.
Yeah, so we had a contract with our lawn care service providers through 2025. Every year we meet with them in the off season to kind of see how the season went, and typically it's just kind of talking about logistics. But this year they said that they cannot continue with the compensation that they were receiving, and we tried to negotiate with them. They didn't budge much. They came back and they asked for a 60% increase, and we consciously couldn't just give that to them. And so we told them that. They didn't lower it at all, and they wrote us a letter kind of informing us that they wanted out of the agreement based off the compensation. And so we opened it up. That was in March. And so in April, we opened it up as fast as we could because we needed lawn care for the summer. And I sent it out to probably 10 or so different companies in the area. Talked to one other guy. He sounded like he was going to put it in. He never did. But JJ was the only company that came back. And so we wanted to go out to the market and make for sure that their increase was legit, and there was nobody else who even put in. One of their main concerns is getting employees, because it's Jared and Jordan, and they're awesome. They're great. They're great laborers. That they're out there every single day working, doing a fantastic job. We've been really impressed with the quality of their service. But to find good employees to continue the job and to continue to grow, what we were paying them, they would not continue to do it with that. So we went out, got the request for bid, and they came back. We gave them two different schedules to bid out. One was the current level of service that we were providing. And as we were negotiating, we were kind of talking, and we talked to Rusty, the cemetery manager, and we said, maybe every other week they trim the cemetery, because that's really labor intensive to trim around every headstone at the cemetery. And it might not be necessary to do it every single week. They do understand that Memorial Day is a very important day for us, and they'll get it up to up to par for Memorial Day for sure. But to save on some labor, we did a schedule where they trim the cemetery every other week, and they actually end the cemetery in the end of October instead of the end of November, just because usually November is a leaf cleanup time instead of actual mowing. And then some of these detention basins that are kind of hidden away, we're having them mow those every other week as well to save some money. So anyways, all that being said, I think it still increased about $40,000 to $45,000. So, and that's what we would recommend the council approving this contract with them, because there's nobody else to mow. We don't have the equipment to mow nor the manpower to mow. So
Thing I liked was your chart you put in there, you know, when they bid it, and in 2019, they was 75 with the next bid coming in at 107. They were just trying to get in. I work with them quite a bit, you know, down to the cemetery and pond and all that. And I know they care, you know. Looking at that price increase on there, it's a big one this year, and then I just think we have to, you know, not let it get away. They can't come back next year again and want another 10% or whatever. We've got the gas price built into it. Mark's
built the
got
gas
that.
price built in, and I did do a 3% increase from this year to next as
Yeah.
well.
So is this the same company we're using?
It is.
Okay, so we're back to them.
Back to
Yes.
them, but with the compensation that they need to continue to run.
When I read through this resolution and everything that they're taking care of, I could understand why they would want an increase. I mean, just paying for the people to work for you plus gas. You know, I was shocked how much area they're actually covering.
Yeah, that map's in there somewhere too.
Yeah,
Right there.
yeah, right there.
Total acreage of, what was total, Mark?
It's like 35 acres every week, but the cemetery, really, it's the cemetery that kills these guys. It's very, very labor intensive for them.
Is this in the budget, Mark? Is it already in the budget?
So we have May and June. They did agree to continue on in April up until this date, you know, if the council passes it or not. So we paid them for April for their current contract. And then, so we have May and June that will have to pay the extra. And then I did include it in the tentative budget that you
I
passed.
see.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
You
other
know our
questions?
choice, don't you? Everybody bring their lawnmower Saturday morning and that, so I'll make a motion. We pass.
That's some perspective.
2328.
or incentive.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Resolution
23,
20.
Oh, yeah, 23, I make a motion, we pass resolution 2328.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Wes and a second by Connie. It's a resolution, and I believe it's your turn.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
West side.
Rick, I.
Brett, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if
I
we
sharpened
can.
my blade just in case we don't.
Okay. Let's see if we can move things along here. Review of calendar.
Yeah.
So the farmer's market's coming up. I've noticed.
Hey,
Sweet. Come up and tell us about that and your branding implementation while you're up here.
So farmer's market is this weekend. We're full, just about for the whole season. We only have a few spots really for the end of the season.
Are we closing the road? Okay.
That includes us putting vendors in the street. And everyone's really excited about it. I've heard from others that people are talking around town excited. They're excited to come get pumpkin seeds and do all that again. So we do have that coming up. And we have actually a volunteer, a husband and wife that are running all of our crafts for us this year. She works with a company that's out of USU. It's not USU. And they are supplying all of the supplies. and
For the
our
kids.
labor For the kids. So
The
we're not
kids.
actually having to supply that this year as well. They volunteered that for
Yeah.
us. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah.
And then new, next week, we're starting a second Friday stroll downtown. Our businesses downtown, the retail, they're not doing well right now. So I wanted to find another way to get people downtown to know what we have downtown. So I have 8 businesses confirmed, which is the majority of our downtown retail. And so we will be open extended hours the second Friday of every month. And during that 5 to 8 o'clock hour, we'll have like a special, we'll put out some light refreshments. And then I'm creating a punch card to encourage everyone to actually step foot into every store that's participating. They don't have to buy anything. They just have to step in and get their card punched so they know, hey, this store exists. And then all of us businesses are putting together a small gift basket that whoever participates in that completes their punch card each month. They'll be entered in for that giveaway for that. So hopefully this will help increase foot traffic to downtown, hopefully help with revenue, tax revenue, all that stuff.
I think that's
So,
great.
and then the branding, we applied for a TAB grant and we were awarded $20,000 for that. And that is specifically to put street furniture on Main Street that is with our new branding. So right now I have been walking the street and inventorying what benches, if there are like any ones that are from retail stores that they have out there themselves, what trash cans we have, how many are out there, and then also looking at the faces of these buildings. Where does it make sense for us to put these new benches? We're going to be looking at new trash receptacles with our branding, as well as some bike racks. So that way we can encourage all forms of transportation and all that downtown. So that's currently where that is. Once we finalize that, it's a 4 to 6 week turnaround time. So we'll be able to see those down here on Main Street really like this summer.
Cool.
Are them gonna be bolted down? What are you gonna
They
do,
will be
snow
bolted
shovel
down.
them?
I don't have,
Well, if they put them out close enough to the street, they'll just be covered with snow because
I see that issue of,
We have narrow sidewalks, that's the big issue.
yeah.
It might be the where we unbolt them and I'm telling, that's another job for Wes.
Yeah.
When we
I just see them being, I don't know where,
move barrels, we move.
in the alleyways or whatever, but can't put them there.
So scroll down if you would a little bit more, and what's not shown here is maybe you could,
It's got the bike racks and,
yeah, it has bike racks. It also has, there's a bench that's backless, which probably has a little bit of a smaller footprint. And so these would be envisioned to go adjacent, right at the edge of the property line and right away, so close proximity to the buildings.
There we go.
So, so there's different options that we can use.
we do need benches.
That's a bench that has no seat.
North-South Street, so like even Tremont Street or, ones that are right off of Main Street, not all necessarily directly on Main Street, but the Main Street.
are them iron, wrought iron? Huh? How do you get the lid off to get the garbage can out?
I don't think we were gonna go for one with an actual.
Ooh,
lid.
that's good, thank you.
I think we're essentially the same style we have, but would have our logo though on the side, is what, we were working with Smith Steelworks. I think that was the name of them.
Yeah.
So they're really cool.
So Sarah, you've been and know our business district probably better than anybody, maybe. And what do you think the business owners, do you know what the business owners are kind of hoping and wanting? What can you tell us about our business owners?
They're wanting the local community to support them,
Okay.
because we're not seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, I mean, I do have a store here on Main Street.
Will you speak into the mic? They can't hear you.
That's why.
You have 3. There you go. I've just noticed there's less traffic on Main Street. There are like less cars parked on Main Street. There's just less people. They're not spending dollars here. And I get it, like the economy is a little rough, but we're just not seeing foot traffic. And I've talked with most of the retail stores that are in that main section of Main Street, and they're all feeling the same thing. Many are reducing their hours. Some have talked about potentially closing. We've already had some close. So this is, well, not the furniture, but the stroll is an attempt to try and get the people downtown to realize. Because I know in my business, I have people every day that come in, had no idea I existed. And we've been open for almost 2 years. And I think it's the same thing for most of them. And so trying to get the events downtown, with renovating the square and making that a space that we can host more events and make it more functional to get people downtown, the farmers market, the stroll, other things like that, I think it's all to benefit our downtown businesses and all of that.
Sarah, the thing the model that they're projecting right now is that a good business should be, I think it's somewhere around 20% in-store sales, 80% online sales. And with our community and with our internet services and all that, maybe we need to look at some way getting in and helping them get a better online presence, because we're getting a lot of sales tax revenue, and that has to be coming from online sales. And so it would be nice if we could find some resources to help them get a little bit better footprint on
That's something
online.
I've actually been having conversations with Sean, is finding a way, like on the back end, working with the businesses closer. And, we've talked about maybe bringing in training options, because a lot of these businesses aren't even on social media. If they are, barely, and today you have to be on social media posting every single day. And they just don't understand that. And so we want to try and find a way to kind of bring them together and also get the businesses to work together. And we're not each other's competition. We can work and, help each other out rather than fighting each other and trying to stay in our own little island. Instead, if we work together, it raises all of us up together. So that's what we're working on. So come out to the stroll.
Do we have like a local merchants committee? I mean, you are it at this
I am
point.
it right now. We are going to have a meeting to kind of figure out the logistics of how that would work. Is it a public thing? Is it a private thing? How do we want that to look? We're still trying to figure all that out.
So unfortunately, our chamber became Box Elder County Chamber. It's not a localized anymore, but we've always had a local merchant committee which functioned just like what you're doing right now. I mean, increased sales means increased sales tax to the city. I don't know why we can't justify putting together at the city's expense some type of a session where they can bring these people in and help them understand about online, help.
We could definitely do that. And in part, really, that's the downtown manager, that position that we created. I think that's the support that Sarah could provide, and also Box Elder County Chamber, we could call on them and they could help participate and present at such a meeting.
And Monica's on board to do that. We've already had conversation with her, and with however we decide to kind of establish this, she's on board to come in and teach whatever she has the knowledge to teach and present as well.
Bring them into the city right here and do some training, once a week or once a month, try to keep them.
Yeah.
There's a lady from, I believe, Bragg, I remember she came in and talked to us, and she had a lot of knowledge on that and really pushed this. And I believe it's out of the Brigham office. I want to say Bragg, but
That's sounding familiar. We could reach out to them.
yeah.
There used to be, I forget her name, she's passed on cancer, but she used to represent USU.
Wendy?
Who?
Was
Wendy.
it Wendy? Yes.
I forget her last name.
I know.
It's been about 5 years ago, and she was phenomenal in this area that we're talking about right now. And there's got to be somebody in that position right now, because she actually would work for USU and Bridgerland at the same time and doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would be more than welcome, or I would love to find people. I am myself very knowledgeable in this. My background is actually online sales before the brick and mortar. And I've been doing online sales since 2009.
Well,
and
there
it was
you go.
a full-time income for
There
me.
you go.
So,
With your business, what would you say your online sales is versus your
well, I have
local sales?
switched because of having to focus on my store here and then with the city.
Right.
But it did naturally do this last year.
Yeah,
So, but I'm also I'm in the artist community.
right.
So, which a lot of us are kind of in a more specialty retail, not just like what you go to Amazon for. It's more specialty shopping. So, but yeah, no, I would love to do that, whether it's me teaching what I know or bringing in someone who's even more knowledgeable than me and just getting us, at least we're doing everything we can to help. And we can, say that we did everything we can. So.
Okay, let's talk about the farmer's market again. So last year, I think I had to be there at 7:30 in the morning.
Like to volunteer this
And,
year?
yeah, and 2 o'clock is usually when you're ending.
8 o'clock is fine.
8
I'll
o'clock?
have a check-in table at, I'm not letting vendors set up before 8. I will be there at 7.
Okay.
And then we'll be setting up the tents and all that at 8. I'll have a check-in. I'll have a table specifically for the mayor to hand out pumpkins. We're going to actually be setting up this year too, signups for official city volunteers. So to do background checks, all that, so we can start collecting volunteers for things like the farmer's market or heydays or whatever we're doing. And we just know that they're cleared to work with children and we can collect them. So we'll have that at the table. And then we have still some T-shirts that we can have for sale
And this is going to go, so it's going to be the first Saturday of every month
through October.
through October. Okay, good. All right, I got it.
They won't book nothing for Saturdays until October.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
The only other thing, so from your workshop, I will let you guys know, I have already talked with Mark. We are planning like that first week of June to start whatever you guys decide with your budget for him and I to sit down and work out a whole like social media thing to inform everybody, like all the things, this is what you're getting, and breaking it down and putting it out over the summer, as well as getting it printed and we can get it out as well. So
Okay.
we're working on that. So whatever
I've
you guys
noticed it.
decide, we'll end up then taking that.
I
and doing it.
volunteered just for a little bit of input.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any unfinished business or action items we need to look into? Lindsay, any?
Or calendar items.
One more, Cinco de Mayo. Let's see, what day of the month is that on? No. And then Hay Day's coming up in July. Mayhem, so at the Public Works Building, huh?
What?
Library event?
It's for the library. It's our teen event.
Oh. Very good.
Another calendar item, I don't know if you noticed all the trash bins out as you were driving in, but it
Yes.
starts tomorrow.
They put them out tonight?
Yeah, they're out.
So spring cleanup goes from what?
In the morning.
I love it.
I'll be going to work early, Paul, smashing dumpsters.
So it goes from
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th of May. Okay, great.
They'll be out by 4 o'clock. They have to have them out to the dump by 5. We don't leave them over the weekend.
4th or the 5th early.
The 5th, by 4 o'clock, they're gone.
Friday, yep.
Okay. Okay, sounds awesome.
Love that.
Thank you, and thanks to the city for doing that. It's really appreciated. As you can see by all the treasures that are left on the side of the bins. Okay, Sean, anything?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Whoa. Sean Silent.
Anything from the department heads?
Police department got a grant for 10,000. We're waiting on 3 other grants. Should offset, if we get them, there's one I'm really hopeful about, should offset the cost of our officers. So I'm really crossing my fingers. Aside from that, I think that's about it. We've just been doing a lot of proactive activity. I also want to give Julia honorable mention for all her efforts with the animal shelter.
I should.
Yeah, thank you.
An event recently, very successful. And that's all I got.
Okay, so they can't hear you on the speaker, but thank you for going after those grants, and we look forward to you getting those. And we do appreciate all you do for the animal shelter. I just started raising chickens, and I'm just starting to find out that they're just cute little things, and I'm kind of looking forward to it, and I'm getting attached. We'll see how long I stay attached.
They're like kids. Chickens are like kids.
You don't? Oh. So if there's a rooster there, I can just leave it down at the pound?
Or
Oh, at your house.
down for lunch if you leave it there. in the morning.
Okay.
Chris got anything?
Chris?
Really?
Okay, so we'll wait to hear the progress of our fire chief in the future.
About that.
Paul?
I want to give a shout out to Public Works. We have been planning a dog play yard. Paul gave us a small plot of land that he surrendered. I won an arm wrestling contest. And
Oh.
no, he was generous and we talked about the need for a place for the dogs to go outside and not be, they're on concrete 24/7. And some of these dogs have been with us for 2 months at a time and their paws bleed because they are just on concrete in the shelter, they're on concrete out in the parking lot. And so ideally, we would have a place for them where they can have grass, or we're gonna do turf. And so Paul set aside a space for us, and the Public Works guys have been out there doing concrete work for us and digging up fence posts, and oh my gosh, it's amazing. So it's really close. Hopefully next week we'll get our shed that we had built. It can be, Monday it can be delivered, and we can start moving our supplies out of the shelter and keep them in the shed, which will give us more space inside the shelter. And it's just, there's good things happening. I've got 6 really solid volunteers right now that for the month of April, they logged in 160 hours for the shelter. And that was, so I mean, it's a lot, it's a lot. It's a lot.
They run them dogs, Brett. They take them out in.
Yes.
On that gravel. You know, they try to keep them inside the fence or whatever. But they're running with them dogs. I'm going, glad I'm not a volunteer.
Yeah.
We're gonna start recruiting at the gym, so I can come rent a running buddy.
There you go.
So to summarize, you're thanking Paul for giving you some space for a dog park, if you will, and for all the people that are helping you with their volunteer hours.
And they just had just such an awesome attitude about it. I know they have a trazillion other things they could be working on, but they set aside time to do this, and it's like, it has brought tears to us. Me and my volunteer show was like, oh my gosh, there's hope. There's gonna be a soft place for their little paws to lay.
Okay, well, thanks, Paul.
We also got approved for our partnership with Best Friends Animal Society, so that will open us up for more grant opportunities through them. And the adoption event was really awesome. IFA hosted it at their location here in Tremonton, and it was great. It brought in a lot of people from the community. It brought in, you know, we talk about the shop local and spending money local, and we chose that location because then it drew people into their store, so that we created a list of things that we need at the shelter, and we sent it in. My little 9-year-old stood out front passing out little lists to people, letting all the shoppers know what the shelter could use donations of, and people were shopping in IFA, bringing us donations. So it was mutually beneficial that they were making money, building revenue for the city. We were getting donations for the shelter. Everybody wins. We got 4 dogs adopted out, 2 cats adopted out, which doesn't sound like a ton, but when we have 10 kennels, that's a huge difference. So
Okay.
anyway, we were extremely happy about it. We put in a ton of work, and it paid off. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, hey, can I suggest, can we get a hand mic? Yeah. Let's get a hand mic in. Because
We can just make them come up. We ought to have them come up.
it would be nice, then you could just hand it, because people in the audience, people on the TV can't hear what they're saying, and they would like to. I mean, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Then that way, we can pass it around and everyone can hear. Okay, any council reports? Wes?
Nope. I learned quite a bit in St. George.
Good.
Yeah, I
Good,
liked
it was
that.
good?
It was amazing.
It was amazing down there.
Learned a lot about dignity.
Oh, nice.
How to be dignified when we're mixing and conversing with people that maybe don't see things the way that we do. To be dignified in our addresses. It was
Tim Shriver presented.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably the highlight, I think, of the entire,
Was.
the highlight of the entire conference.
Oh, good, good,
It was absolutely amazing.
good.
And we
Probably
might have an
continues it.
opportunity to,
Yeah, we need to reach out to,
Host.
it's in partnership with the University of Utah. We talked to the University of Utah president. We just happened to sit right in close proximity to him. He came over, Mark and I visited with them, and it sounds like they're willing to come up and essentially redo that presentation, and have Tim be the presenter, sort of what I understood, so.
He said he's in with Arthur Brooks as well, so.
Yeah.
If we can line it up correctly, we could have kind of the entities in this area all.
Nice.
all attend.
That'd be good. Cool. Cool.
That was really good stuff.
Must have been that one I was in.
Jolly and big and risky in our conversations.
Nice. Okay,
I just,
yes.
Mark and Sean, this budget is phenomenal. I just thank you for all the time and effort you have put into it, Mark.
it is really good.
You can see what's going on at a glance, and it really helps with making decisions.
It does.
Okay, and Rick and I learned a lot too, so. Okay, with that in mind, one last motion, please.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay,
Second it.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.